next time you walk past a luxury glass condo tower, I really want you to stop and just, look up.
Yeah, just take it all in.
Exactly. Because from the street, what do you actually see? You see these serene, monolithic towers just reflecting the sky.
Right, they look completely flawless.
Peaceful, even.
Yeah.
On the outside, it just looks like this stunning piece of minimalist architecture.
It creates this really beautiful illusion of perfect, frictionless modern living.
Right.
You swipe your fob, the lobby doors glide open, and everything just appears to be effortlessly handled for you.
But behind those glass walls is a chaotic micro-democracy fighting over millions of dollars and, well, cigarette butts.
Oh yeah, lots of petty disputes.
Because once you step inside and you get past the concierge desk and you walk into the boardroom, that serene illusion just shatters completely.
It really does.
These buildings are this fascinating collision of high-stakes financial planning, intense legal standoffs, and honestly some of the most petty neighbor disputes you can possibly imagine.
It really is the ultimate intersection of high finance and raw human nature.
It is. And we have an incredible stack of sources for you today. We're looking at a full year of the 2025 board meeting minutes, plus the annual governance report for a luxury building called Minto Water Garden.
Which is a beautiful property.
It is. Technically, it's York Regional Standard Condominium Corporation number 1268, located in Thornhill, Ontario.
Right.
So our mission today is to decode the hidden reality of condo living.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we even get to the staggering numbers in the budget, we have to talk about the daily friction of managing hundreds of people who all share a single roof.
Yeah, the human element is inevitably where the cracks start to show.
Absolutely. So let's look at February 2025. The board is dealing with absolute chaos in the shared party room.
Oh, the party room drama.
It's intense. You have residents renting out the space, and instead of, a polite wine and cheese gathering, they are bringing in their own heavy-duty Bluetooth speakers.
Which is never a good sign. Never. They're cranking the volume to 100%. And when the building security guards ask them to turn it down, the residents are incredibly rude to them.
Which puts the volunteer board in a deeply uncomfortable position, honestly.
How so?
Well, they're essentially the employers of that security staff, right? So they're tasked with creating a safe workplace.
Right. That makes sense.
But they are also elected by the very residents who are causing the problem. It brings up this concept of fiduciary duty.
Right, the legal obligation.
Exactly. A condo board has a strict fiduciary duty to act in the best financial and operational interests of the corporation. And sometimes, that means protecting the building from the people who actually live in it.
So the board has to bring the hammer down. They institute a new rule. If you bring your own speaker and turn the volume past 50%, you instantly forfeit your $500 damage deposit.
Wow. Instantly.
No warnings, you're just out $500.
It's a swift financial deterrent, but it forces basic courtesy.
It really does. And the behavioral issues don't stop there at all. There's this huge situation with the elevators.
The food delivery thing, right?
Yes. Residents suddenly realize that food couriers, like people delivering takeout, are being granted access to the central elevators to drop food directly at people's doors.
Right, which sounds convenient until you think about it.
Exactly. Imagine you are living in a highly secure luxury building. The whole point is that you control who gets to your floor.
Yeah, security is a major selling point.
But having unvetted delivery drivers just roaming the residential hallways creates a severe security vulnerability. So the board steps in and completely locks the elevators down. Strict lobby-only drop-offs are enforced.
I can only imagine the pushback from residents who just wanted the convenience of having, a pizza handed to them in their pajamas.
Oh, it was loud.
You have this multi-million-dollar security infrastructure basically being undermined by the desire for convenience.
Oh, the complaints were incredibly vocal. But my absolute favorite detail from these minutes, and this is what really captures the absurdity of condo governance, is the cigarette mystery.
This is wild.
A resident is so furious about cigarette butts falling from balconies above them that they start collecting them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They bring actual cups full of cigarette butts to the board meeting as physical evidence.
Well, formal meeting. That is amazing.
Just cups of them. But because there's no camera pointing straight up the side of the building, there is no definitive proof of the culprit. The board is completely paralyzed by the burden of proof.
Because they cannot levy a fine or send a legal warning without verifiable evidence.
Right. It makes me think that running a condo is basically like being the mayor of a vertical town.
That's a great way to put it.
You have all these citizens, they all share the same plumbing and elevators, but they have completely different rules for how they want to live.
Yeah, everyone wants their own way.
But this leads to a huge question. If a condo board can't even police someone flicking cigarette butts off a balcony, how on earth do they manage the monumental building-wide financial operations?
What's fascinating here is that those hyper-local issues, the loud music, the food deliveries, the cigarette butts, those are the proving ground for the board's authority.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, establishing boundaries on the small things maintains the social contract of the building. And you desperately need that social contract intact when it comes time to ask those exact same residents for tens of thousands of dollars to fix the roof.
Or repair the foundation.
Exactly. You need them to trust that the rules matter.
Because the physical maintenance of a building like this costs an absolute fortune, especially when your building's entire core aesthetic is themed around nature. Minto Water Garden's literal tagline is "Nature comes home."
Which is beautiful for marketing. But nature, as literally any homeowner knows, is incredibly expensive to maintain indoors.
Or even just next to a concrete foundation.
Very true.
You are not kidding. Let's look at the bills they were paying in 2025. First off, they are battling the earth itself.
The grading issue.
Yeah. The board had to approve a $59,546 bill to Almeida Landscaping and Davy Tree for grading. And I was looking into why grading costs so much. It turns out actual sinkholes were appearing near the concrete walls of the building.
Wait, actual sinkholes?
Actual sinkholes.
That is a classic structural threat. I mean, water pools against the concrete foundation instead of draining away, right? So over time, that hydrostatic pressure basically washes away the underlying soil, creating a void or, a sinkhole.
Which is terrifying for a massive tower.
Oh, completely. If you don't spend the $60,000 to regrade the soil and direct the waterway today, you will eventually be spending $600,000 to fix a cracked foundation tomorrow.
And then you have the aesthetic upkeep. They spent $16,772 with a company called Marble Clinic just to restore the marble floors.
Wow, just for the floors.
Plus another $3,384 on a highly specialized vacuum just for the water garden pool.
That is a very expensive vacuum.
Right. And then there's the unseen infrastructure. They had to pay a $25,990 bill to Total Plumbing to clean the kitchen drain stacks.
Let me guess. Cooking grease.
Yes! You nailed it! The pipes were so badly clogged that the board had to send notices begging residents to stop pouring grease down their sinks.
It happens everywhere.
This is something people don't realize, I think. You pour warm, liquid bacon grease down your drain and it seems totally fine.
Because it's liquid.
Right. But it travels down into the central plumbing, hits the cold pipes inside the walls, and solidifies. Over time, it turns into an actual concrete-like pillar.
It is a textbook example of the tragedy of the commons.
I've heard that phrase. That's when everyone acts in their own short-term self-interest.
Precisely. One person pouring grease down the drain assumes it's harmless.
Because it is. To them.
Right. It solves their immediate problem of cleaning a greasy pan.
Right.
But when 100 people do it, they destroy the shared resource. In this case, the central plumbing.
And saddle the community with a huge bill.
Exactly. A $26,000 concrete blockage that everyone has to pay for.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Which brings us to the great bench debate of 2025.
Oh, I love this part.
The board is reviewing quotes for outdoor seating for this gorgeous water garden. They have options. They can get a $1,009 basic park bench or a $1,299 steel slat bench from Global Industries.
Which already sounds expensive for a bench.
Right. But no. They opt for the $1,788 courtyard bench from a company called Yuling.
Almost $2,000 for a single bench.
Almost $2,000. I have to push back here. They are paying huge sums to fight nature, literally filling in sinkholes. So why are they subsidizing fancy seating? Why not just buy the cheaper bench and save the owners some money?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to understand the economics of luxury real estate.
Okay, tell me more.
In a building like Minto Water Garden, the aesthetic isn't just vanity, it is equity.
How does a fancy bench equal equity? Explain the mechanism there for me.
Think about it from the perspective of a potential buyer. The visual standard of the common elements. The gleaming marble floors, the perfectly manicured water garden, those high-end courtyard benches.
Yeah.
That is the very first thing a prospective buyer sees. If you walk into a building for a viewing and see a cheap, rusting park bench next to a cloudy pool, your perceived value of the entire building drops instantly.
Oh, I see.
So maintaining that premium visual standard is directly tied to the property values of every single unit in that building.
That makes total sense.
If the board cheaps out on the bench, they save $700 today, but they could be costing their owners tens of thousands of dollars in resale value tomorrow.
Wow. Okay, so they aren't just buying a place to sit. They are actively preserving a specific visual brand to protect their property values.
Exactly, it's an investment.
But to pay for $1,700 benches and $60,000 sinkholes, you need a bulletproof budget, which is fascinating because Minto Water Garden went through a wild financial roller coaster in 2025.
The cash flow dynamics in these corporations can be remarkably volatile.
Oh, look at this swing. They started the year in a really rough spot. In January, they were staring down an operating deficit of $14,744.
Which is stressful for any board.
Super stressful. But through some aggressive management, they swung that around to a $136,000 surplus by August.
That takes rigorous financial discipline from the board.
They really dug into the details. They found savings in really clever places. I was reading through the contract section of the minutes, and I noticed this overlap they caught.
Oh, the elevator contract.
Yes. They were paying for an elevator consulting contract with a company called F. Shaw, but they realized their separate existing maintenance contract with Schindler actually already absorbed the costs of CT1 and CT5 testing.
That is such a good catch.
They were essentially double paying for oversight, so they just canceled the F. Shaw contract.
Catching that is a huge operational win. Just for context for you listening, CT1 and CT5 are mandatory, highly rigorous safety tests for elevators.
Right.
CT1 is an annual inspection, while CT5 is a full load test required every 5 years. That's where they actually test the emergency braking systems with maximum weight.
Sounds terrifying, but necessary.
Very necessary. And finding out those expensive tests are already baked into another contract is exactly the kind of line-by-line scrutiny you want from your board.
But the real financial drama comes from looking at the future. The board brought in an engineer named Stuart Handerhan from a company called Synergy to present a new reserve fund study.
Also known as an RFS.
Right, an RFS. By law in Ontario, condos have to project their major repair costs out for 30 years to make sure they are saving enough money.
Right, that's the legal baseline.
But Stewart pushed the board to look beyond the legally mandated 30-year minimum.
Which is an incredibly smart, albeit very unpopular, recommendation.
He argued that if you stop at 30 years, you completely miss saving for the catastrophic end-of-life projects, like, having to replace the curtain wall in year 35.
And we should really clarify what a curtain wall is, because the cost is just staggering.
Please do.
A curtain wall is basically the non-structural outer glass skin of the building. It keeps the weather out.
Okay.
But over a few decades, those seals degrade, and the insulating argon gas between the glass panes just escapes.
So it loses its insulation.
Exactly. The building loses its thermal efficiency. Replacing it means literally peeling the glass skin off a skyscraper and installing a new one. It is phenomenally expensive.
I can't even imagine that bill. To be sustainable, to actually save for those distant disasters like the curtain wall, Synergy recommended a 5-year phase-in of fee hikes.
No one likes fee hikes.
Nobody. Current owners are going to have to absorb an average increase of $51 per unit for the corporation, plus another $24 per unit for shared facility items.
That really adds up.
It does.
Yeah.
Imagine you just bought your dream condo, you're looking at your monthly budget, and your board tells you you have to pay $75 more a month for windows you will likely never even see replaced.
Right.
How do you convince current owners to pay for the future like that?
Well, this raises an important question, and it really is the central dilemma of condominium living. It's that constant tension between the short-term financial interests of the current residents and the long-term structural survival of the building itself.
Is it actually fair, though? Is it fair to charge a 25-year-old first-time buyer today for the physical decay caused by the previous owner over the last decade?
It is the pursuit of intergenerational fairness.
Intergenerational fairness.
Exactly. Think about it. If I plan to sell my unit in 3 years, human nature dictates I want my monthly fees as low as possible today so I have more disposable income.
Obviously.
I don't want to fund a new roof that won't be built until 20 years after I leave. But if the board gives into that pressure and keeps fees artificially low, they're essentially stealing from the future.
Because the bill always comes due
Yeah,
eventually.
always. When year 35 rolls around and those glass seals fail, the people living there at that specific time will be hit with a special assessment.
What's a special assessment exactly?
A special assessment is a sudden mandatory lump sum bill charged to owners because the reserve savings account is empty.
Ouch.
We are talking bills of $30, $40, sometimes $50,000 per unit,
Yeah.
payable immediately.
Wait, immediately? What if you don't have it?
If you can't pay it, the condo corporation can put a lien on your home. Yeah. So by pushing beyond the 30-year horizon, this board is trying to ensure the cost of the building's decay is paid incrementally by everyone who uses the building over time.
Not just the unlucky ones holding the bag at the end. Intergenerational fairness in a condo. I've never thought about it like that, but that is essentially what city taxes do, just on a micro scale.
It's very similar, yeah.
But here is the terrifying part about long-term financial planning. It is nearly impossible to execute when you share your infrastructure with a neighbor who completely refuses to plan at all.
The shared facilities agreements.
Yes.
This is where condo governance goes from a math problem to a total legal nightmare.
So we've talked about saving for the next 30 years. But what happens when you share a building's literal plumbing with a completely different set of owners who refuse to save a dime?
It's a recipe for disaster.
Minto Water Garden, which again is legally, Corporation 1268 shares facilities with a neighboring entity, Corporation 1272. They share crucial infrastructure. But right now, they are locked in a bitter mediation and arbitration process. The massive roadblock here is that a key figure representing the other side, Rabbi Zaltzman, is flat out refusing to allow an update to the Shared Reserve Fund study.
Operating without an updated study is legally precarious, to say the least.
That study has sat untouched since 2019. It's 2025. They have no idea what their shared future liabilities are because the other side won't let the engineers do the math.
Unbelievable.
So what does this all mean? Why do developers even set buildings up this way? Why tangle two different corporations together from the start?
Because it is highly efficient for the developer during construction.
Okay, how so?
It allows them to build multiple towers faster and cheaper by routing everything through, say, one central boiler room or digging one massive underground parking garage for both buildings.
Oh, I see. That saves a ton of money up front.
Exactly. But once the developer finishes construction and leaves, they hand over this tangled web of shared physical infrastructure to two legally distinct, independent corporate entities.
Right.
You have two different boards, elected by two different sets of residents, with entirely different financial priorities.
It's like an arranged marriage between two corporations that share a bank account and a roof.
That's the perfect analogy.
And it's causing immediate, messy operational problems, too. There's a dispute over an outstanding receivable of $28,312 with a submetering company called Karma.
Now, submetering companies handle the hardware that tracks how much water or electricity individual units use.
Right. Well, a pipe joint failed in the building. Karma claims, hey, we only changed the water meter, we didn't touch the pipe, we aren't responsible.
Passing the buck.
Totally. But the board argues that the physical act of installing the meter, the torque and the pressure changes, is what actually broke the old pipe joint.
Makes sense.
So it's a standoff. Karma offered to pay 50% to just make the issue go away. But the board secretary, Gerald Epstein, and their lawyer, Brad Chaplick, are taking a hard line. They are fighting for 100%.
Good for them.
But the gridlock is so intense that by September, the board actually had to create a bad debt provision in their budget just in case they never see that 28 grand.
When you share a physical space, a single holdout, whether it's a submetering vendor or a neighboring condo board like the case with the 2019 Reserve Fund study, can just paralyze the entire ecosystem.
Completely freeze it.
Yeah. If one side refuses to recognize the reality of a decaying asset, they force the other side into expensive, hostile legal arbitration just to do basic financial planning.
It's absurd.
The board for 1268 is trying to look 35 years into the future, and they are legally chained to a partner who won't even look at the math from 6 years ago.
That has to be incredibly frustrating. I mean, you can do everything right in your own building. You can budget perfectly, you can catch the elevator contract overlap, enforce the party room rules, fight off sinkholes,
Right.
and you can still be dragged down by the legal anchor of the building next door.
It really highlights how fragile these microdemocracies really are. Your financial security is tethered not just to your own board's competence, but to the competence of your neighbors.
So for you listening, why should you care about the 2025 meeting minutes of a single condo complex in Thornhill, Ontario?
It's a fair question.
Because whether you live in a high-rise condo, a neighborhood homeowner association, or even if you just pay municipal city taxes, this is an absolute masterclass in how collective money is managed.
Absolutely.
It shows you exactly how hyper-local politics, whether it's policing delivery drivers in the lobby or fighting over the price of a park bench, directly impacts your daily life, your physical security, and ultimately your wallet. It's all connected.
It serves as a fascinating microcosm of broader society. I mean, the challenges they face with the tragedy of the commons, long-term infrastructure funding, and political gridlock, those are the exact same challenges faced by major metropolitan cities.
But the stakes in these buildings just feel so concentrated.
Very true.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying thought to mull over.
What's that?
As this current boom of glass and steel towers across our cities ages into their 40s and 50s, what is going to happen?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Will these intricate, fragile, legal webs of shared facilities and reserve funds actually save them? Or will the sheer staggering financial burden of replacing half-century-old infrastructure cause these micro-democracies to just collapse under their own weight?
It's a huge unknown.
You look at those serene, flawless glass towers on the skyline today, and you have to wonder, what is the inside going to look like tomorrow?
It is a question anyone investing in shared real estate should be actively asking themselves.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.